And good morning and welcome to today's Cabinet meeting of Telford Wrekin Council, which again is being held virtually and broadcast on the Council's Twitter and YouTube sites for members of the public to observe. We'll start with the agenda. Item 1 is apologies for absence. I believe we have 2 apologies, which are Councillors Ray Evans and Councillor Carolyn Healy, who are attending external events. Is that right, Democratic Services?
That's correct.
Are we happy to note those apologies? Lovely. OK, thank you. Item 2 then is the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 14 of the pack, which have been previously circulated. Are we happy to accept those as a true record?
Madam Chair.
Moved by Richard, the Deputy Leader. Thank you, Richard. I'll sign those at the first available opportunity that's available to me. Item 3 then is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest made previously or you wish to highlight today? No? OK. Item 4 then, my announcements. I'd like to start clearly with our best wishes to Her Majesty the Queen and the royal family on the death of Prince Philip. It was really touching to see the whole of Telford Wrekin communities coming together in solidarity with the royal family following Prince Philip's death. We were really keen to ensure that we did everything we could in a pandemic restricted way to show that respect. And I think that the way in which we did that was appreciated by many of our residents. I'd also like just to highlight that myself and the Mayor of Telford Wrekin have written on behalf of the Council and our community to Her Majesty to express our condolences as a borough. This is potentially going to be the last virtual meeting of the Cabinet that we will have, subject to the legal challenge that's going ahead. I want to just make absolutely clear to our residents that we will ensure that all of our decision making is done in a transparent way. The government are encouraging councils to use delegated powers more often as a result of the inability to hold virtual meetings. If delegations are used, we'll be reporting those delegations to the next available Cabinet and the next available full Council, so that they are transparent and clear to all members of the Council who can ask questions on those decisions. It's always been my view as leader of the Council over the last 5 years that such delegations, particularly by myself as the leader of the Council, should be the exception rather than the rule. And I reaffirm that today, that will certainly be my approach, that I will not be using delegations if at all possible. And if I do use those delegations, I'll immediately report those to the monitoring officer so that they can be reported to the next Cabinet meeting. I also just want to say finally on a happy note that Friday is St George's Day, and it's really important, I think, that we as a community celebrate St George's Day and celebrate all things all things English. I do hope that our communities, clearly in a COVID secure way, are able to do that. We're going to light up Southwater 1 red and white. We've already painted a number of our key islands with the St George's flag, which has gone down really well with our communities, and we've got some special other visible things that will take place on Friday, and also in our parks and our district centres and in the community gardens in Madeley. We are going to be extending a particularly St George's theme style trail, which I hope that the children and families across the borough will enjoy. So hopefully we'll all have reasons and the ability to raise a cheer for St George's Day on Friday. That's all I wanted to say, so thank you. I'll move on then to the first report on the agenda, which is item 5, which is the Affordable Warmth Strategy and Action Plan, pages 15 to 46, and I'll hand over to Councillor David Ride.
Thank you, Leader. Both myself and Richard, I'm sure, welcome your support for St George's Day as St George's ward members. It's a real pleasure to present the Affordable Warmth Strategy to Cabinet today. It's a draft version of our strategy 2021 to 26, and it's another important element of our housing strategy. You've seen a number of housing reports coming forward over the last few Cabinet meetings. And obviously our objective is to improve housing stock condition across the borough, working with partners across all tenures, all ownerships, and support vulnerable residents and make sure that we improve the well-being of our communities. So in overall terms, the strategy that you see before you today aims to reduce the number of houses classed as being in fuel poverty. Through the work we've already done in the borough, we're doing better actually than the regional and national average, but we still have just over 9% of households, that's more than 7,000 households, who are considered to be fuel poor under the national definitions. And we need to be mindful also that with the global pandemic and changes in the fuel poverty indicator, this may rise actually in the short term in terms of the categorization. So what we're aiming to do with this report and our strategy overall is to target areas with high fuel poverty and address inequalities. So in both the urban and rural areas of the borough, we have some areas where fuel poverty levels are over 14%. But we're going to work right across the borough to target fuel poverty. And we're going to look at those areas where the problem is significant in terms of the geography. And that links also with our Safer, Stronger Communities work. Now, clearly, and I'm sure Councillor Burford will say something in a few minutes, this links to our health and well-being strategy, and it supports the most vulnerable people. And we want to make sure that those households, including older residents and those with serious illnesses that are exacerbated by cold and damp conditions, that we're targeting support and assistance towards them. And this covers and links into our health and wellbeing strategy and also our climate change action plan, because obviously if you make homes more energy efficient, you reduce the take in terms of carbon, and that's really important for our climate change action plan. So over the last 6 months, we've already seen a lot of progress. So we've been developing a new communications plan, working with partner organisations to streamline, simplify access to national grant funding to maximise local take-up. And we'll be developing that further through a new hotline and a website. We've published the EcoFlex statement. Cabinet members will be aware, statement of intent, which broadens the number of residents in the borough who can benefit from finance for heating and insulation. And there's a public statement of the criteria for local authorities available on the website under the Energy Company Obligation 3 funding section. We've been awarded over £500,000 in the Local Authority Delivery Fund to develop a pilot scheme to target grant funding to improve properties, and we're going to focus that at the outset on South Telford. We're focusing also in terms of private sector housing on ensuring landlords meet their minimum energy standards, minimum energy efficiency standards criteria through information, advice, and, if necessary, enforcement. Now, we're also committing as part of the strategy to a top-up fund to enable more vulnerable residents to access national grants where households are expected to make a financial contribution. And we're also setting high standards through the work we're doing through projects of our own, for example, New Place. So overall, this strategy links directly to our commitment to protect, care and invest to create a better borough. It invests in ensuring that people can have warm homes, reduces fuel poverty, and makes sure we're supporting residents right across the borough. And in that context, Leader, I move the recommendations.
Thank you, David, for that report and your introduction to it. Is that seconded by anybody, please? Thank you, Andy. Are there any questions from Cabinet members before I invite group leaders to comment? Councillor Andy Burford.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I obviously welcome this report, and Councillor Wright has set out how it hits a number of different agendas. I mean, one of the difficulties with urging individuals to do things which benefit the climate change agenda is it's very hard to do that when you're living in poverty, when you're wondering how you're going to feed the family the next day, when you've got the pressures of of living, which we know with many jobs are extreme, with people having to take more than one job and all the rest of it. To actually talk to them about how they need to change their lifestyle is difficult, not to say sometimes insulting to their situation. But with this report, we've got something which cuts with the grain both ways. So it, you know, it is in those families' direct day-to-day interest to get these improvements to their homes, whether that be retrofit or whatever, or help with their fuel poverty, a direct and immediate financial benefit, as well as helping the climate change agenda. So that's really important, I think. And as Councillor Wright says, that our health and wellbeing strategy is focusing on the social determinants of health. That the phrase these days, which indicates that people's health and well-being are dependent on other things in society, not just what the NHS can do for them when they get ill. And this is right up there as being one of the most important things. So on all counts, this hits all the right notes, I think, and I welcome this. My only caveat, of course, is that there is a limit to what any council can do in this area. It does require massive government action on issues of poverty if you're really going to address this properly, and also on housing itself in terms of proper investment programs. But yeah, I welcome it and commend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burford. Councillor Overton?
Yeah, of course, with everyone else, I welcome this strategy. We all know that warmer homes are healthier homes, and you know, and as Andy and David have said, it links into our health and wellbeing strategy. You know, fuel poverty and bad health create ill health, and by addressing these concerns and also linking into our better homes policy with private landlords, I think we'll have healthier and better outcomes for all. But as Andy says, this does require not just council's approach, but a whole approach from government as well to make this the best way forward. But we as a council, as David said, are doing something about it because we know that it's something that's the right thing to do.
Thank you, Richard. Councillor Lee Carter?
Thank you, Leader. Well, welcome this. Obviously, we've done a huge amount in terms of the energy agenda, not only generating energy through the solar farm, but also launching the Switch Telford Wrekin platform a couple of years ago. Really welcome this. I know what a complicated field it is in terms of that targeted support to tackle fuel poverty. As Councillor Wright said, it's absolutely shocking that sort of 10% of the houses within Telford Wrekin are classified as being within fuel poverty. There is only so much we can do as a council, but I believe we are doing as much as we possibly can do. Obviously, there's clear advantages in terms of health, as Councillor Burford said, environment, as Councillor Wright said, but also economic benefits as well of doing this. You know, the less people have to spend on energy bills, the more they've got to spend within the local economy. So there's a clear economic benefit as well. So really welcome this report.
Thank you. There's no other cabinet members indicating to speak, so I'll invite the leaders of the other groups to come in. Bill, you had your hand up first, so Bill Tomlinson, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. First of all, I'd like to put our group's condolences on record for Her Majesty the Queen. When you think that her marriage was over 70 years and now she must be mourning for that person that was part of her life, it's really, really difficult. I know that's from my own parents, but also when you think she's in the public domain, and it's so hard to mourn and also be there for the public as well. So just want to put that on record. With regard to this strategy, though, I wholeheartedly support it. I echo the concerns that there's only so much a local authority can do, but it can be a win-win if we can help those who are in fuel poverty as best we can. That's fantastic. And also do a bit more for global warming by better insulation and reducing energy usage. So fully support this. Thank you. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlinson. Councillor Dugmore.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yes, I'd like to echo the sentiments of yourself and Councillor Tomlinson. Condolences for the Queen and the royal family. Prince Philip is going to be sorely missed by not only them, but particularly them, but also the whole country. Now, moving on, I mean, as far as the affordable warmth strategy goes, yeah, fully support the thrust of this. I've just got a couple of technical questions which perhaps might not be able to answer, but perhaps I could have a written answer on. I mean, I know how how it's worked out if someone's in fuel poverty, but how do we actually identify these people? Because sort of reading through the report, it seemed quite difficult to do that. So I'd just be intrigued as to how these people are being identified, because a lot of these people, as has been mentioned before, too embarrassed to come forward, and how would we know that they're in fuel poverty? The other thing, the other couple of questions is what's the target reduction that's projected for this policy, and over what period of time? And finally, I'd be interested to know what powers do we as a council actually have over landlords to address the problems of fuel poverty, because obviously if they're if someone's in rental property, well then it's the landlord's responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, did you want to pick those up, or would you like to address that outside the meeting?
Well, I'll pick up some of the technical points with you, Nigel. Happy to do that. I would say to both yourself and to Bill, thank you for the broad support for the strategy. I think it's sensible that we move forward on a whole range of health and carbon reduction angles here. Then this strategy contributes to that. Nigel, you pick up a good point, which is how you identify people. I think that's through cross-agency working. So people applying for benefits, people perhaps seeking other types of support from the council or other agencies, putting information out to them practically to focus on their income levels and offer opportunities for energy improvement, working with private sector landlords, as you say, in terms of enforcement action. But if you look at the report, private sector landlords now have to comply with a new energy rating, so you're not allowed to let a property below a set energy rating. In terms of the changing dynamic, in terms of the indicators, the actual indicator has changed in the last 6 to 8 months. It's my understanding. So we're going to have to look at how that impacts on our housing stock in terms of long-term targets and delivery. But obviously, I'm happy for you to have that separate briefing in terms of targets. Clearly, what we've got to do here is marshal all the resources that come from so many different angles. So there are government projects, there are energy company obligations, there are local authority top-up elements. What we've got to do is make the connections so that if people approach us through the website or on the phone, actually it doesn't look like lots and lots of different schemes. It feels like we can help them, excuse the pun, to plug into the right source of funding. So it's about having a single access point, I think, so that we're not baffling the public with all the different types of schemes that are actually out there. I hope that's helpful. Thanks for the support, though, generally, for the report.
Thank you, David. I mean, I just wanted to say in concluding comments, excellent report. As David quite rightly says, thank you very much for the group opposition leaders' broad support. I do think the points around for some people in our community in 2021, there is still a choice between eating and heating, which is quite shocking, really, particularly when you see energy companies making hundreds of millions of pounds of profits. I do think they need to do more to support our most vulnerable in our communities together with government. I do think this strategy does go significantly way in terms of trying to address our own issues. And I thank David Wright and his team for bringing this report forward. So it has been proposed, it's been seconded. As always on these virtual meetings, I'll take silence as agreement. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, we'll move on then to the next item on the agenda, which is the Alscott Free School Presumption report, pages 47 to 54. And I'll invite Councillor Shirley Reynolds to introduce this report.
Thank you, Leader. You have before you today this report as part of the ongoing investment and development of our educational facilities across the borough. We're seeking today approval to undertake a presumption competition to establish a new primary school at Alscott. This is part of the continued expansion programme, ensuring sufficiency of school places for families who are choosing to live, work and raise their families in Telford and Wrekin. Primary school would open in September 23 and provide 150 new primary school places, with capital costs being met by the developer in accordance with the Section 106 agreement within this 470 housing development on the former British Sugar site at Alscott. Outline planning consent for the school has been granted, and it is currently envisaged that the developer would submit the reserved planning application for the new 150 place school in October 21. As members will be aware, establishing new schools were changed when the Education and Inspections Act 2006 came into force in 2012. A local authority who now requires a new school must seek proposals to establish an academy for free schools. This proposal will place the local school at the heart of the community, with the school being designed in such a way that it has potential to be expanded if there is future demand from local residential development. We are planning ahead and ensuring school places are available for families who recognise that Telford and Wrekin is a very attractive place to raise their families. This is one of 2 new schools being provided, additional primary places in the borough at the moment, with the proposals currently being developed for the provision of a primary school in Briersley, currently due to open in September 24. Similarly, we're also underway with 2 secondary expansion projects, providing another 600 new secondary school places. 300 places are being provided at Telford Langley at a cost of 4.9 million, which is due to complete in time for this year's September places for the September 21 intake, and a further 300 places are being provided at Holy Trinity Academy, subject to planning approval, with completion on the currently proposed September 2022 at a cost of around 7.8 million. We're continuing to invest in our educational facilities while protecting and caring for our families, part of our Creating a Better Borough strategy. I move recommendation 2.1 and ask Cabinet to approve the commencement of the presumption competition to find a suitable school sponsor for the proposed Alscott Primary School. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Is that seconded? Thank you, Richard. Any questions or comments from Cabinet members? There being none, I'll move to Councillor Dugmore.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, this is great, and it's definitely needed, and I'm glad to see that that the school has the capacity to be expanded in the future, which is something that's quite important as the population increases. Just one question: what happens if an academy sponsor doesn't come forward?
Thank you, Councillor Dugmore. Councillor Tomlinson.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I welcome this report. The housing development at Alscott now is going ahead like a steam train, and the houses are coming on stream thick and fast. So I'm glad that this facility is going to be up and running by 2023, particularly as I know that the local primary school, the next largest one, which is at St Peter's in Bratton, is often full to capacity. So I welcome this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Leader. As far as I'm aware, going back on Councillor Dugmore's question, I'm sure this can be confirmed by the team. The DFE will support us in ensuring we do get a sponsor for the school.
Simon Wellman, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just to mention that we've already had some soft intelligence to show that there is interest in the local area for trusts signing up to become the academy sponsor. So we're confident that that will proceed.
Sure. Okay, thank you. That report's been moved and seconded. I think it's, as Shirley says, absolutely a sign of our confidence as a borough to be opening and building new primary schools, creating additional school places and secondary schools, and what a sign of success that so many families decide to stay here in Telford Wrekin for free-built families. What a vote of confidence in the borough that they believe that they want to invest quite literally into the future generations of our town. So that's fantastic. So it's been moved and seconded. Again, I'll take silence as agreement. That's lovely. Okay, thank you. Moving then on to our final item on the agenda, which is a scrutiny recommendation on the local plan. And it's my pleasure to welcome Councillor Chris Turley, Chair of the Scrutiny Committee for Communities, to address us on this recommendation. Councillor Turley, over to you.
Thank you, Leader, and especially thank you for inviting me to present the Local Plan Working Group's recommendation report. And as the background, I'd just like to mention that at the 11th of November 2020 meeting of the Community Scrutiny Committee, the committee received a briefing on the authority's local plan proposals from the Council's Director for Housing, Employment and Infrastructure, the Strategic Planning Team Leader, and the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Commercial Services and Regeneration. The committee received briefings on specific policy areas and the form that the local plan consultation would take. From the policy areas that were discussed, members expressed a specific interest in the policy areas of biodiversity net gain and urban greening. It was agreed that due to the cross-committee nature of the local plan, a working group made up of members from a variety of committees would best serve scrutiny of the proposals. A 6-member working group was formed, meeting 5 times throughout February and March to examine biodiversity net gain and urban greening with the local plan proposals. At its meetings, the working group received evidence from council officers and external speakers, shared research findings and discussed the proposals. As a group, we were keen to see the borough adopt a policy in both biodiversity net gain and urban greening as possible, whilst retaining the flexibility needed to allow our borough to continue to grow and flourish. To these ends, we made recommendations contained within the report in the hope of contributing to the Council's efforts in addressing the climate emergency and creating a greener borough. Finally, on behalf of the members of the Local Plan Working Group, the joint chairs, myself and Councillor Ginny Reynolds, wish to offer our thanks to all officers and guests who contributed to the review. Therefore, I submit the recommendations. Chair.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to you, Councillor Ginny Reynolds, and all the committee members for the work on this. I'll ask Councillor David Wright to respond.
Thanks, Leader, and I echo your thanks to Chris and to other members of the Scrutiny Committee. I had the pleasure of going along to a couple of their sessions and listening to members. I did stand off the process a little bit. I think Cabinet members should, in terms of allowing the Scrutiny Committee to come up with ideas and innovation and their own approach. But what I can say is that we very much as a Cabinet, I think today will welcome the recommendations that the Scrutiny Committee has come forward with. I'm pretty confident that we can work these recommendations into our constructive review of the local plan. So broadly today, I think Cabinet welcomes the recommendations. I think what we will do today as a Cabinet is ask officers to work on a response to the committee, but also to integrate the recommendations from the scrutiny process into the local plan review. And I hope that that will bear fruit, and Chris and other members of the committee will see those policy themes emerge during the process of developing our draft and then our approved review of the local plan.
Lovely, thank you very much, David. It is a recommendation from scrutiny to the Cabinet, which has been responded to, but I will bring in Bill and Nigel if they want to, but very briefly, please, because that isn't strictly, it's not strictly a Cabinet report. But Bill.
Thank you, Leader. No, just want to put on record, I was really glad to be part of the group and see that, all party working together on this. It goes to the heart of what we love in part in Telford, in the fact we're such a lovely green area, and then this particular paper and these recommendations with regards to the local plan, it then helps embed that better into there, because it forces any development we have, they've got to adopt these new standards of urban greening and biodiversity gain. And I really welcome the fact that part of the recommendations are that we as a council will try our hardest to be a beacon of best practice, which we have been in the past, and I'm sure we will do in the future, in terms of what developments we have. I particularly think a new place we're all excited by the prospect. This not only affects housing, but also commercial development. So as many green roofs as possible now would be wonderful. And to be able to adopt this as speedy as possible. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Bill. All right. Well, we've had the recommendation scrutiny. We've got the response.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Nigel, you hadn't indicated. I didn't know whether you wanted to speak, but I'm more than happy to bring you in briefly if you want to.
Sorry.
Yeah, put your hand up.
Yeah. All right. I'll put it down now. Okay. The thrust of the policy is great. I just hope that that the principles are fed through to the planning department straight away, so that those developments that are in the process get to benefit from the thrust of this policy as soon as possible. We can get on with it.
Thank you. Okay, so we've had the recommendation. We've heard it from the cabinet member. We've had the comments from the group leaders. Are we required to take a vote on this, Anthea? Or somebody from Democratic Services? Is this has to be accepted formally at this meeting, is it? Or is it?
Yes, sorry, I was struggling with my mute button, Councillor Davies, but yes, it has been formally accepted by virtue of what's been said.
Okay, no need for a vote then. Okay,
no.
All right. In which case, thank you very much for everyone's attendance and contributions today. That does bring our meeting to an end, and subject to the court case, we'll meet in person as a cabinet for the first time for quite some time next time. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Later.
Bye.